People wear headphones to focus. They believe music helps them concentrate. This idea feels intuitive. It seems like a modern productivity hack. Yet, current science suggests this habit can degrade deep focus. The short-term benefits often mask long-term harm. This essay will explain the underlying problem. It will also provide a clear, actionable solution that you can implement today. The goal is to move beyond the myth and embrace a more effective way to work. The prevailing myth is simple. Music and ambient noise reduce distractions. They create a personal bubble. They seem to make work feel smoother and faster. Many articles and productivity gurus promote this idea. The first problem with this narrative is its oversimplification. Not all sound is created equal. Background noise might aid simple, repetitive tasks. However, it actively harms complex cognitive work. Headphones encourage a state of constant auditory input. This practice fundamentally changes how the brain functions over time. Auditory overstimulation is the critical concept to understand. To understand how sound hijacks your attention, we must first appreciate that your brain's response to it is not a simple linear process. It's a deeply ingrained, evolutionary marvel of biological engineering. It begins with the outer ear, the pinna, which funnels sound waves into the ear canal. These vibrations are then converted into electrical signals by the cochlea, a spiral-shaped organ in the inner ear. This conversion is remarkably sophisticated. The signals then travel up the auditory nerve, through subcortical relay stations, and finally arrive at the auditory cortex in the temporal lobe. But this cortex is not a passive receiver. It actively interprets sounds, identifying patterns, understanding language, and recognizing familiar melodies. Crucially, it is always listening, constantly scanning for a sudden change, a surprising element, or any sound it deems important. This is because the auditory system never truly sleeps. It's hardwired for continuous threat monitoring. When such a sound is detected, the cortex sends an urgent signal to a more primitive brain area, the amygdala. The amygdala is the brain's alarm system, its primary threat detector, and it is central to our emotional responses. It performs a rapid subconscious assessment of the incoming sound signal, asking a single, critical question. Is this a potential threat? If any uncertainty or potential danger is perceived, it triggers a system-wide alert. This process is known as an amygdala hijack. Instantly, your body prepares to fight or flee. Your heart rate may increase, your breathing pattern might change, and your muscles may tense slightly. This is an evolutionary adaptation that served our ancestors well, providing 360-degree acoustic surveillance. In a dangerous world, a rustle in the bushes required an immediate, full-body response for survival. The issue in the modern workplace is that this exquisitely sensitive system is now overstimulated. The sudden start of a new song, an unexpected lyric, or a jarring shift in volume can be enough to trigger a micro-alert from the amygdala. These transients and novel onsets are precisely what our brains are wired to prioritize. So while your conscious mind knows you are safe at your desk, your subconscious, neurologically wired alarm system does not. It remains on high alert, ready to hijack your attention at the slightest provocation. When the amygdala sounds its alarm, it initiates a chemical cascade in the body. One of the primary chemicals released in this stress response is cortisol. Cortisol serves an important evolutionary purpose. It helps mobilize the body's energy reserves, increasing blood sugar and delivering it to our muscles to deal with an immediate physical threat. Short, acute spikes in cortisol are a normal and healthy part of life. They sharpen your focus and help you perform under pressure, like when meeting a tight deadline. The problem arises when this response becomes chronic. Constant listening, especially through headphones, can keep the brain in a state of light, persistent alert, tricking this ancient survival circuit into overactivation. This sustained state of low-grade alert leads to what can be described as a cortisol drip. Instead of a large, short-lived surge, the amygdala's constant vigilance activates the body's central stress response system, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal, or HPA axis. The amygdala signals the hypothalamus, which signals the pituitary gland, which in turn tells the adrenal glands to release a slow, steady drip of cortisol into your bloodstream throughout the day. You may not feel overtly stressed or anxious. The effect is insidious and subtle. Yet beneath the surface, your body is adapting to this chronically elevated level of stress hormones. This adaptation has significant negative consequences for your ability to perform demanding cognitive work, because cortisol doesn't just affect the body, it directly targets the brain. Specifically, it impacts the prefrontal cortex, the very region responsible for executive functions like planning, decision-making, and maintaining focus. This brain region is dense with two types of receptors that cortisol binds to: mineralocorticoid and glucocorticoid receptors. When these receptors are chronically overstimulated by the cortisol drip, they trigger a destructive molecular cascade. The production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, a crucial protein for neuron growth and survival, is disrupted. This leads to the physical retraction of dendritic spines, the very connections that allow neurons to communicate. Your brain's communication network literally begins to unplug. This creates a physiological barrier to entering a state of deep focus. Deep work, or flow, is the optimal state of consciousness where we feel our best and perform our best. It is characterized by effortless concentration, a sense of timelessness, and complete absorption in a task. Achieving this state requires specific neurological conditions: a calm nervous system, large blocks of undivided attention, and low background stress. Chronically elevated cortisol levels directly sabotage all of these conditions. High cortisol and persistent amygdala activity make it difficult for the prefrontal cortex to filter out irrelevant information. Your brain's gatekeeper is weakened. Simple interruptions feel more significant and are harder to recover from. The mind jumps from one stimulus to another, preventing the sustained immersion that defines deep work. The inevitable result of this cortisol drip is a state of perpetual shallow work. You may feel busy and productive. You might be ticking off items from your to-do list. However, you are not engaging in your best, most valuable thinking. Your working memory is degraded, and your ability to flexibly shift between cognitive sets is reduced. Your cognitive output is diminished. The mental state required for creative breakthroughs, strategic planning, or solving genuinely hard problems remains physiologically out of reach. Your brain is too occupied managing a low-level stress response to dedicate its full resources to the task at hand. This is the hidden physiological price of wearing headphones all day. This constant low-level activation keeps your nervous system in a state of heightened arousal. This state of arousal is fundamentally incompatible with deep focus. This creates a vicious cycle of auditory dependency and cognitive fatigue. Breaking this cycle requires a fundamental shift in perspective. We must recognize silence not as an absence of sound, but as a crucial, active ingredient for peak cognitive performance. Silence is not empty. It is a dedicated space for neurological recovery. During periods of true quiet, the auditory cortex, which never truly sleeps, can finally rest. The constant, metabolically expensive need to filter and process is removed. This allows the brain to consolidate memories, forge novel connections between ideas, and, most importantly, replenish the finite attentional resources needed for the next period of intense cognitive effort. Avoiding silence is akin to an athlete refusing to take rest days. The initial output may seem high, but performance will inevitably decline, leading to burnout. We need a clear rescue plan to counteract the effects of auditory overstimulation. I call this framework the silent recovery protocol. This isn't about simply turning off music. It is an active intervention designed to lower amygdala activation, reduce the chronic low-grade cortisol that degrades prefrontal cortex function, and restore the precise neurological conditions required for deep work. This protocol consists of 5 clear, actionable steps. Step 1 is to establish a baseline. For the next 2 work days, meticulously track your headphone usage. Note how many hours you wear them, what tasks you're performing, and in what environment. This data is your starting point. Step 2 is to schedule 2 60-minute absolute silence blocks into each workday. No headphones, no music, no background noise machines. If your environment is loud, use high-quality earplugs to create true auditory quiet. Step 3 is to use short, intentional sound windows. These are 20 or 30-minute bursts of sound used strategically to boost simple, low-complexity tasks or to bridge the gap between demanding projects. If you must listen during complex work, choose instrumental, low-variation tracks. Lyrics actively compete for the same phonological loop resources your brain needs for internal monologue and problem-solving. Step 4 is to engineer a calmer environment. Maximize natural daylight. Declutter your physical and digital workspaces, and aggressively control notifications. For your silence blocks, book a quiet room if necessary. During these blocks, actively aid your recovery. Practice slow, diaphragmatic breathing. Soften your visual focus by looking away from the screen. This neuro recovery stack deepens the restorative effect of the silence. Step 5 is to track your results after 1 week. Measure your deep work minutes, note any reduction in subjective cognitive load, and look for fewer errors. Use this data to iterate and optimize your schedule. If 2 60-minute silence blocks seem daunting, start with 1. The goal is consistency, not immediate perfection. Once one block feels manageable, add the second. Use calendar blocks and communicate your intentions to colleagues. A simple sign on your door or a status message can protect your quiet time and set a new team norm. For those with ADHD or anxiety, for whom absolute silence can be agitating, consider clinician guidance. You might try very low-level broadband noise as a base, or lengthen your quiet periods gradually, starting with just 5 minutes. If you wish to take one single action right now, identify 1 hour in your calendar for today or tomorrow. Block it out as silent recovery. When the time comes, turn off all sound, put your phone away, and give your brain the rest it has earned.